The Doctrine and Devotion Conference on Biblical Theology is just around the corner, and for this week, 5 lucky winners can get reimbursed for their ticket entry. Check out the show notes for details.
Welcome to Doctrine and Devotion, a podcast exploring Christian faith and practice from a Reformed Baptist perspective. My name is Joe Thorne. I'm the Dude Bro of Redeemer Fellowship in St. Charles, Illinois.
And I'm Jimmy Fowler, Dude Bro, Executive Pastor of Redeemer Fellowship.
What's up, Dude Bro?
What's up, dude? Dude. No, see, I go, dude.
And what do I do then?
Bruh.
Bruh. Okay, that's how you
dude.
do it. Bruh.
Bruh.
Yeah, okay, I got it. I'm learning.
We're learning. We're getting this.
So, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well.
Been a busy day?
Yeah, today was busy. Today was pretty busy at work, but you know, it is what it is.
Then we got a Doctrine and Devotion planning meeting.
Yep.
Then we got an elders meeting.
Yes.
And then I got to go pick up my daughter from work.
Yep. And I'm going to go home to put the kids to bed. So there's a women's ministry event tonight. So
that's right, 7:30 here. They're studying Colossians.
So usually I've got DG, but we're all like, wives want to go to this, so we're going to put our DGs on Monday nights.
Oh, wow, you moved it. Good.
Yeah, so that, you know, men can be home to be with the kids.
Take care of the kiddos. Yeah, man. Yep. I like it. So I did this thing.
Oh, you did another thing?
I did it. Well, it's the same thing.
Oh.
Remember that thing I did?
Well, I guess how can I forget? My phone's been going crazy.
So I don't get Twitter alerts. I don't get any social media alerts on my phone. I don't know any notifications.
See, I get no notifications for me.
Yeah.
Or anything. I get notifications for you.
Yeah. Well, that's good because you care. You got to watch my back.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, because if you don't know, most of you know if you listen to the podcast, that earlier this week, I posted a screenshot of an email that I got from Ed Stetzer, and Ed Stetzer is a teacher. He's a preacher. He's a writer. He's a missiologist, really.
Yeah.
And in his email, he was answering a question that I'd asked about whether or not the fallen pastor James MacDonald had back in the day given him a car as a gift, and Ed said in this email, yes, he did. I received it, as a gift. I thought James had given it to me, but turns out I found out later that it was he used the church money or the Walk in the Word money to purchase that car for me. And once I found that out, I
misappropriated funds.
Yeah, that's right. I gave that money back. I said, "Oh, here's the money. I don't want to accept that kind of a gift." So I put that out there, and to be honest, if I'm totally honest, I didn't put that up in my motive. I didn't put that up as a defense of Ed, certainly not a defense of James. I honestly thought this was information that people who are very invested in the conversation would appreciate, right?
You thought you were doing a good thing.
I thought I was trying to be transparent, right? Like people, I'm like, listen, Ed's a friend of mine. I know Ed. I'm not trying to hide that. I included his whole email. You even said, hey, I'd like to come on the podcast again, like whatever. So, and in my mind, there were a couple of relevant factors here that I thought, let's go ahead and put this out there. One was, here's another example where we know for a fact James paid out big time to friends with church money.
Okay.
That was relevant to me.
Yeah, you just said this is another example.
Yeah, well, I think it had already come out that motorcycle had been given.
Okay.
So, and the other thing that I thought was important was that, hey, listen, when Ed found out, he actually paid it back, and he wasn't prompted by others to do that. No article had come out saying that Ed had received anything at this time. He found out and that how it was paid for, and he gave the money back. So I thought, okay, well, this shows bad on James and good on Ed for paying it back. But so as I did this, of course, the responses and Twitter conversations and people started to go deeper, right?
Yeah, I mean, some people were asking, they're asking good questions, right? They're asking okay, what does this then mean, right? What does this mean in the greater scheme of things,
right?
Of what's going on at the church? What does that then mean for tax write-offs? That's actually a really important question to ask.
Right.
You can't sit there and, take a gift, give money for the gift, and then receive a tax benefit for the gift. Like that goes against the law there. So the people were asking really good questions. Others were making accusations. Some people were kind of going, I don't know.
Some people were hot,
Some people were hot. Some people were, yeah. And I mean, for me, probably the only thought, listen, people don't know us, right? And I understand that. And so that's one thing. But it was kind of like this, like, oh, if you really cared about the people and if you really understood spiritual views. Well, yeah, that was a weird one for me, especially coming from churches that, you know, having experienced that and even ministering to those, and quite a few people.
Well, let's talk about that in just a minute, like, because the fact that we talked about this last week or earlier this week, and we got some extra feedback on that. So just on the tweet, people were asking questions, digging deep, digging into it, getting into stuff that I hadn't considered at all, you know, because I was just, again, while I follow this thing, I wasn't really thinking too deeply about this particular issue as it related to Ed. So, and people, I think some of you know, you regular listeners know, I post stuff on Twitter, but I don't engage a lot on Twitter. So, you know, Jimmy does a little bit more of that than I do.
Yeah, but even engaging, I don't really do.
Yeah, it's I just, you know, and
I wish if I had more time, I would, right? But I could just be so enslaved to it. Yeah,
right. And so, a couple things here. That I said on Twitter as I was trying to engage. I said a few things, the few times I did engage, and people didn't like these things, right? Number one, I said at one point in there that Ed doesn't owe people on Twitter that he doesn't know an answer to a question that they pose. Just because somebody poses a question to you on Twitter, if you don't know that person, I don't think you owe them an answer.
Yeah.
I think that doesn't mean that Ed shouldn't offer an answer in general to the issue, but I don't think, and I used the word rando.
Rambo? Like, you're saying you're being a Rambo?
I think a lot of people hadn't heard that term before. I'm old. I figured that if I know it, rando, like a random person. Like I said, like, listen, Ed doesn't owe an answer to every rando that asks him a question. He doesn't owe an answer to that. And so, like, I think some people got a little. First of all, that's funny to me because it's just. First of all, here's the thing: it's not an insult. Everybody is a rando to somebody. Like a rando is simply a person that you are unacquainted with who is somehow now seeking to engage you, step into your life, etc. It can be a really bad thing, or it can just be like a random person that is kind of stepping in. So I wasn't trying to insult anybody. I was just using a funny word. So in answer to this general question, you and I both think that it would have been good for Ed to get out there and make his experience with James and his position on all things James MacDonald public, right?
Absolutely. I think it's a big mistake, Ed, that he has not already.
Yeah.
I think that he should have. I think it's important for him to do it, and I think the more time that passes is unhealthy.
Right. So then we, then on Monday's episode, we wound up talking about all this stuff, but only very briefly, right? Because people, if you're not a regular listener of the podcast, what you may not know is that when we started Doctrine and Devotion, we really wanted it to be two pastor theologians just talking about serious stuff, but also just talking the way that we talk, which is we have a lot of fun, we laugh a lot, and we goof around. So we take the serious things seriously, and we catch up, shoot the breeze. And so in that beginning part, we were just catching up, and we touched on this Twitter discussion debate. So it wasn't our subject for the episode. So we were just kind of recalling what had been happening throughout the week. And in that episode, I think we wound up hurting some people.
Yeah, I think some people were hurt. I think some people were irritated by the way we handled it as well.
Yeah, and so we want to clarify a couple of things here on that. So number one, I think people accuse me of saying that I don't pay attention to the harvest situation. And what I actually said was, I quote, don't pay attention to the thing, end quote. What I was referencing, however poorly I was attempting to reference, I was referencing the Twitter conversation itself, that I haven't been following that particular Twitter, I wasn't paying attention to that thing. So I do pay attention to the MacDonald issue. I pay very close attention to it. So I wasn't clear on that. That was on me. Bad on me. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think another thing people talked about was laughter.
Yeah. You laugh too much.
I do. I do laugh. I have like a lot of nervous laughter. Joe always calls me out for that.
Because you laugh like Seth Rogen when he's high.
No, that's not funny. That's when I'm sick. But no, it's like I do have a lot of nervous laughter. For whatever reason. But that's one of the things. But I think we laugh at the situations that we find ourselves in. And last week, I mean, that previous episode, I was laughing at Joe.
It was an awkward situation for us.
Well, for Joe.
Yeah.
It was an awkward situation.
For you too, by virtue of being,
No, it was an awkward situation for Joe. And so I was laughing at him. I'm like, oh, you big dummy.
Right. So that's what we were laughing at. I'm sure that was confusing for people. And one of the things that I said is we were ending the conversation, just that brief conversation on the front end of our podcast that was ultimately about something else, right? I said, listen, we're talking about nothing here. Let's move on. That wasn't fair to say. I certainly in my heart wasn't implying that this is a nothing issue. Yeah. I should have said, we're talking about stuff that's not relevant to our topic of the day. People are tuning in to hear the topic of the day. Let's get to it.
And now part of it too, Joe, is that I think a number of these people probably don't listen to the podcast, which is fine. They don't have to. But you often say that to me. All right, no one cares about this.
Yeah, I say all the time.
All the time, Joe will say that.
Yeah,
that's
nobody
like
cares
a segue.
about this.
That's a segue to the subject
that could be a
at hand.
T-shirt that we make. Nobody cares about
Nobody
this.
cares about this. That's how we segue to our topic.
Yeah.
Granted, poorly done there.
Yeah, it wasn't, again, I have no problem saying like poor execution, not very thoughtful and on my part.
And even this whole thing, like we weren't trying to go deep, right?
No, it was just a catch up.
It was just a catch up. We were just letting people know, just a recap of how our week had been.
Right. So let me say this. I am very sorry for hurting people in how we rolled along with that conversation. Wasn't thoughtful or sensitive. I'm sorry. All right. So now what we wanted to do.
Are you going to apologize for me too? Like,
am I going to apologize for you or to
actually,
you?
Well, no, you were the one that stepped in it.
I stepped in it.
Yeah. You know what? I do apologize as well for not controlling Joe better and letting him off his leash.
You don't
his
control
Twitter. Let him off his Twitter
an enabler.
Leash.
You are an enabler. You don't control anything. Before we get into the topic at hand, let me just say this, Jimmy. The 2019 Doctrine and Devotion Conference on Biblical Theology is happening on May 3rd and 4th. And if you haven't registered, you can still register today. Go to doctrineanddevotion.com/conference. It's going to be an amazing conference with Dr. James Hamilton as the keynote speaker. We got Dougie Logan up on the main stage speaking. Jimmy and I are going to be speaking. And we've got a whole host of breakout sessions on great topics. Steve McCoy, Jen Thorne, Nick Batzig, Jasmine Holmes. Well, Phil's going to be there too. It's going to be a really good conference. But here's what we're doing this week. This week, if you have registered or if you registered this week, we're going to give 5 winners a full refund on their ticket purchase. So we have all the details in the show notes. What you have to do is copy and paste the text, the link, the hashtag, and the image into social media like Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, and we will choose the winners this weekend. All right, so what we want to talk about today is this whole issue of pastors and money and influence, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we're talking about pastors and church money, one of the things that comes up, obviously, in all of this James MacDonald stuff is spending.
Yeah.
There's pastors do have access to some church funds.
Yeah, but I think both of us agree, Joe, that it should be limited, it should be checked, and that it should be made known to the congregation.
Right. So pastors have varying degrees of access to varying degrees of money, but the principles that we operate by is that it needs to be limited to appropriate expenses and to an appropriate amount. Right.
Yeah.
So when we say limited to appropriate expenses, it means that, well, what you are authorized to spend money on should be limited to certain things, right?
Correct.
That's why you have, what do you call those things? Where there's like a number and in the budget, there's like a number and it's like a line item. That's what it is. There's
good
line
job. I was going to
items.
let you sit here and hang on it.
Yeah, I know you are. Thanks. So there are these line items that should to some degree say like, well, this is the realm in which you can spend these monies, right?
Yeah.
But it's also limited to an appropriate amount.
Yes, because each line item has a yearly, budget set amount that you can't go over, you shouldn't be going over. And it's not just that, like when we say appropriate amount, that also then means not just for budget wise, but it also means expense wise. Like Joe can't sit there and go and make a $1,500 purchase.
Nope.
No, we don't. He can't. That and without the approval of the relevant parties, right?
Right. And that's what we mean by it being checked, right? So checked means that the expenditures are checked by the treasurer or the finance team, relevant parties like maybe elders, deacons, whatever. But there are checks and balances, right?
Yep.
In there along the way. But then we also believe, now this is the spooky part to some of my friends, that this should be made known to the congregation, right? I mean, you can't list every single expenditure that's made in a budget. That would be impossible. But you can do what?
We do put like the monthly and yearly amount that we spend, and we make that known. So every members meeting, they see how much year to date we've spent on every single line item.
Yeah.
So they know the up-to-date expenses of the church down to a penny. Now, if a member says, and any member can request, they could say, hey, for this line item, I'd like to see a breakdown. They have access to that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's, part of being a congregational church, right?
Yeah.
We like transparency there. Now, this is in contrast, right? Limited, checked, and made known to the congregation. This is in contrast to the way things were happening at Harvest and at a lot of other churches. In this case, James, they kept a lot of the budget, vague, and some of the budget was completely off book, right?
Yeah. It's not even. He was allowed to spend just tens of thousands, I would say, of dollars a month on anything. I mean, Julie Roy's in her article this last week, and she's referred to in the past as this black budget.
Okay.
And she mentions it's roughly 20% of the yearly budget. 20%.
Of that particular, and that's a big budget.
That's a big budget.
20% is a lot no matter what. But
20% of your budget is the black budget. I mean, I'm taking a quote here. She was talking to the former Harvest comptroller Allen, and he said that the funds for the purchase did not come. And he's talking about the Harley Davidson for the former assistant senior pastor MacDonald. The funds for the purchase did not come from the portion of the budget he controlled, but likely came from the quote black budget. This is a portion of the budget, about 20%, that according to the former comptroller was hidden from all staff.
So the congregation doesn't know about a lot of this stuff, but not even the staff?
Not even the staff, except MacDonald and the former Harvest CFO, Fred Adams.
Good grief. All right, so the spending...
You understand then why people are asking questions, right?
Yeah, of course. And I even get, listen, some people are hurt and some people are angry. And I even get the anger, right? When you love your church and you trust your leaders and you wind up defending them when people are making accusations, and then you find out all of this stuff, man, I would be horked off too. I mean, that's a lot, man. So there are the spending problems, but then we're getting into this issue of giving, right? The giving of gifts, generosity or benevolence. And James, here's the thing, James was known among his friends, and because I know, I've hung out with James a couple times. We were never friends, but he knows who I am. I know who he is.
And he was your mentor.
He was not my mentor, but we did have a nice argument about amillennialism and limited atonement one time. That was fun. So, anyways, he was known among his friends. I'm friends with some of his friends. And they would say he was a generous guy. Now, everybody wants to when I say that, everybody wants to jump and say but he was generous with money that he shouldn't have been generous with. It's not generosity. Okay, I know that. I'm not defending James. I'm not saying
we're not
that he was
defending the misappropriation of funds.
No, and I'm not saying he was a legitimately generous person or not. I'm saying that he was known as that by his friends. I know people that got very expensive gifts from him that were weird. Okay, that's a weird thing. So when we're talking about the giving of gifts from pastors and from churches, what's something that comes to mind, Jimmy? When we do it here at Redeemer, when we think churches are doing this right, what's one of the first things that we ought to be considering? Giving?
First thing is the person in need. So if we're talking about the benevolence fund,
right,
and we're talking about assisting and helping and coming alongside someone, are they in need?
Right.
We're
not just hey, well, this would be a nice thing to do. Just going to bless that person. They don't have a need, but I just want to bless them.
I just want to bless them.
That's not appropriate.
No, it's for those that have a legitimate need.
Right. Limited resources. And in any church, hopefully, there's a diverse socioeconomic body, a group of people. And then because you have a diverse group, you are then able to have all things in common, like an axe, and then help one another when those needs arise.
Mm-hmm. And part of that, though, with that, then is the guidelines, right?
Yeah.
These guidelines that we talked about, that's limited, checked, and it's made known to the congregation. We don't make known the individual,
right?
But we might just say, hey, X percentage of benevolence went towards this sort of,
here's a need,
financially. So with that guideline, when we're asking about it, when someone's coming forward with a request, a benevolence request, we do try to say, okay, have you explored every avenue?
Oh yeah.
And once we know, yes, you know what, they've done everything they could.
We'll ask, do you have savings?
Yeah.
You're asking for help in this area, but do you have savings? Okay, well, if you have savings, then you should look into that to be responsible.
Correct. Have you kind of exhausted maybe just all the options that are available to you? Once that's happened, okay, good. Yeah, then we're in.
I love that. because I really have zero to do with the benevolence and the giving, not only because I'm not a generous person, but also because we have other people that's their ministry, the deacons in particular, right? And so like they're the ones that are constantly bringing stuff to our attention. Like, hey, here's a need. And we know about it sometimes. And then we talk to the deacons and say, why don't you run with this? And man, I love to see how the leadership in the church are actively responding to and even seeking out ways that we can take care of each other. I think it's awesome. So I think it's a good idea for that to probably be handled by the deacons. I think that is a diaconate kind of ministry. But okay, so the giving of gifts in general is fine, but there should be some parameters. But what we've been talking about here in this whole situation with Ed and James is the receiving of gifts. That's really been the emphasis. Yeah. And pastors get gifts too. Pastors receive gifts. I received 2 gifts this month.
Oh,
from church family. 2 gifts. I got one's right on the chair right there. It is a very nice green T-shirt that says, "That's what I do. I smoke cigars and know things." So it was a very nice church family that gave me that just as a surprise little gift. It was very sweet. And I got a custom coffee mug made by, I don't want to say her name because people keep asking her to make mugs for her.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Chris Summer. Yeah. Yep. So anyway, I got 2 gifts. It's not uncommon. People like to say, hey, thanks for your preaching or thanks for your ministry.
And even in October with Pastor Appreciation Month, right?
Yep.
A lot of pastors get a lot of gifts.
Yep.
They get, appropriate gifts.
Yeah. They get, they'll put gifts on my desk or, Pat's desk. And so I know a pastor, when I was a young Christian, when he was a young pastor pastoring this church, he was driving this hoopty, car worse than my hoopty. Like this car was busted. And so a church member came up to him one day and he's like, hey, listen, I need your help picking out a car. Can you come with me? And he's a good guy. He's like, I'll help you. Yeah, sure. He kind of knew about cars. So the pastor goes with this guy to the dealership and he's like, all right, so out of these cars, like, what's the best? What do you like? And he's like, well, this is a good car. And he kind of narrowed it down. And so he's asking the pastor, but which one would you like? Do you think this is a better car? Like, which one would you pick? And he's like, well, I would pick this one. This is definitely a cool car. It's a good car. It's all that. And the guy goes, great. Here are the keys. I'll take care of it from here. And he bought that guy that car. He had already talked to the dealership in advance. And so I think that's fine. I don't have a problem with somebody even giving an extravagant gift like that to another person, even if that person is a pastor. But receiving gifts, you shouldn't always receive gifts. Sometimes you have to say no to a gift that's offered. And there are like 3 basic questions that we ask when a gift is offered that we think people should ask. At least 3. There's probably more. Yeah. We think of three questions to ask that will help you determine whether or not you should accept or reject a gift, right?
Yeah. First, I think people should be asking who is giving the gift.
Right. Who is this person to me?
Yeah.
What's the relationship? And again, that may or may not automatically set it up for you to say no.
Yeah.
Maybe not. It doesn't necessarily. But another question is okay, so what is it that they are giving? Like, what is the gift? Now, again, that may not in and of itself mean it's a no-go. This guy got a car. This pastor friend that I knew. But it may be such an unnecessary gift, such an extravagant gift. It could be a gift that like, well, I don't need the help. Why would you? I'm fine.
Yeah.
So that's another question. But really, like the deep question,
is why are they giving me this gift? Right? What's the motive behind it? And we're not trying to say be cynical, but you should be. You should not like critical in the good sense of the
thinking,
word. Thinking it through to yourself. Okay, why am I receiving this gift?
So what about that gift to Ed? So, Ed wanted to restore a Volkswagen Beetle with his daughter, father-daughter thing. We think that's very awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I know Ed loves his family and he wants to do something cool with his daughter. And so James finds out that Ed wants to restore a vintage Volkswagen Beetle. Ed had done that before in the past. And so James said, hey, Ed, I got it for you. Here you go. Boom, gift for you. So like, let's kind of
go through this.
Okay, who was given the gift?
Well, James MacDonald.
Okay. Right? So now some people are like that obviously you don't ever accept a gift from James MacDonald. Okay. Well, hindsight makes that very easy.
Yeah. Right now you could sit there and say
it's
that.
Very easy.
That being said though, when it did happen, in, what was it, April 2018 or what? Okay. I mean, James was still these stories didn't come out, right? Like as far as Julie Roy's and her World article.
The big media had not picked up on this yet.
No. But he was still in the midst of scandal.
The elephant's debt was out and had been out for a long time.
He was still facing accusations. There was still, it was well known Maybe I'm wrong in saying that, but I'll own this. I think there was a well-known pattern of abusive leadership behavior.
Yeah. And listen, I knew about it. I'd heard testimonies, and we had talked about it to a lot of people.
Even staff coming here.
Right. Yeah. Staff coming in. It's like, what do I do with this, man? I'm getting beat up, by the pastors at Harvest. So, okay. So even if we didn't have all the information at the time, there was enough information known to make it at least questionable whether or not you should receive a gift from James, just because of what we know about James at that time.
Yeah. I think
we know what was given. That's easy.
We know an expensive car,
and it a $13,000 car is not an expensive car in and of itself. But if you're restoring a car and it's sounds like it's mostly restored already at $13,000. It's definitely a big gift. $13,000 is a lot of money. It may not be an expensive car compared to new cars and all that, but that's a lot of money. It gets down to like, well, was there a need? Did Ed need help getting the car? Could he not afford the car? It's kind of a weird.
Ed, I don't see why Ed would have needed the help. Do you know what I mean?
But maybe I don't. Well, we'll get to whether or not we think Ed should have taken the gift in later. But okay, but you don't need a cigar. You could buy your own cigars.
Yep.
But I give you cigars and you give me cigars.
Yeah, that's a cigar. But if you came to me and said, Jimmy, I want to give you this car, I'm not taking that car.
Because you think my car's a piece of junk, that's why. You would not take my car.
Even if you went and bought me a new one. Secondly, because here's the thing. There are some people, and I'm one of these people. I'm one of these people that I do just fine. Okay? I do well. I would, and I hope it doesn't come off prideful. But that's the thing, right? Is that in my head, it's like, such an expensive item, right? I just don't think I could have accepted that because I'm not a person in need.
Okay, so what if somebody though? So you would accept a cigar from me to you because me paying for a cigar is not a big deal.
Yeah.
But what if you had a friend
who I knew was struggling financially?
No. What if you had a friend who made even more money than you, and he's like, hey man. I know that you like cigars, so I bought you a box of these super rare cigars that are incredibly expensive.
I would take it.
You would accept that gift.
I would accept that.
So sometimes you can accept a gift that is expensive, even if there isn't a need, as just the reception of a gift. So the gift itself,
because of the love, that I know
relationship,
that they have for me,
the person. So the gift itself isn't the deal breaker.
Correct.
Right. It comes down to all of these things. Who is giving? What are they giving? And why are they giving it? Yeah. And there are other factors as well. Why are they giving it? Okay. Listen, we ultimately can't know for sure why James gave that gift. Well, we can guess. Yeah. And I think so.
Well, I mean, I think the best case scenario, he was trying to be kind and generous and gracious.
He liked his boy and he wanted to give a gift.
Yeah.
The other option is he was giving Ed a gift to influence Ed or to try to exert some sort of control or to looking for a quid pro quo, something like that. And it seems like that's something that James had done quite a bit in the past. So that's certainly a possibility. Here's the thing. And listen, based on what I've seen in the media and what I've heard reports from people that were in that church and have been going through all of that, that tends to be my take, is that James' motive in giving gifts seems to be
control.
Oftentimes, if not all the time, control, manipulation, influence, leverage.
Yeah.
Now, that may have been his thing. I don't think that necessarily means that Ed was on the take. That Ed was like a part of this whole thing. And I can't say that Ed and I don't pal around, but we are friends. And
he's your mentor.
He's not my mentor. Stop that. And every time you say he's my mentor and I say he's not, then he's like, dude, why'd you say I'm not your mentor?
Yeah.
And then I got to go, because you're not my mentor, dude.
No, I don't understand why you won't just admit that Ed is your mentor.
Here's my take on Ed is that he is not easily influenced. And my take on Ed is that I don't think Ed feels that he owes people much. I don't think he's the kind of guy who feels beholden to people because they've done something for him. Mm-hmm. Now I could be wrong in that assessment, but that's my take on Ed. I think Ed has a good heart. I think he's doing good stuff. So I don't think he was in on all of this, but that doesn't answer the question, right? So just because I don't think Ed was on the take or doing anything intentionally wrong when he took the gift, I don't think he was intentionally breaking protocol or rules or in his own mind. I don't think he was doing that. But should Ed have accepted that gift in your opinion?
In my opinion, no.
My opinion as well. He should not have accepted that gift. And it's pretty simple in our mind. And again, it's easier for us because it's hindsight, right? It's always easier. But we would say, no, he should not have accepted that gift for two basic reasons, right?
Yeah, James' reputation and Ed's position.
Right. So we've already said there was already a reputation. There was already a lot of scandal. Yeah. There was an exodus of people from the church. This was before Julie Roys and all of that did the articles. But that is a good enough reason to go,
Yeah, that should give you pause.
Right.
Right.
And then the second reason is
Ed's position. I mean, I think many argue, and I think they're correct, that it's unethical to accept gifts, especially when you're in a certain position of authority or a position of influence. Right.
Right. It's like, so there are certain businesses and industries where it is policy. You do not accept gifts. Yeah, Journalists is one of them.
Yeah. I like even with my employment, I cannot accept gifts from vendors.
Yeah, and
I also cannot give gifts to my customers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, early on, I was like, "Oh, I'm going to send my one of my customers a nice box of cigars," you know, and I was like, "Hey, man, what's if I want to send you something? What's your large corporation? How do I get it to your desk?" And he's like, "Yeah, well, you just don't."
Yeah.
I can't. I appreciate the offer. That's very kind. I cannot accept that.
Now, I have seen you pick a nice selection of expensive cigars for your lawyer.
Yes.
That's okay.
That is okay. I give it to my lawyer. Yeah.
But not to your customers. You can't buy people's, loyalty and contracts. With,
no, but I do want Tim's attention.
You want your lawyer's attention. Yeah. I want him to be thinking about me all the time. Also, and then, of course, there's, the issue of need and not. A lot of people brought up, like, that's a lot of money for a gift to be given by a pastor, even if you don't know that he's using it the wrong kind of funds. Like, some people would say, like, wouldn't you think if you're not in need, like, man, why don't you give it to somebody that actually needs the help?
Yeah.
So I think that's a fair question.
I think it's a fair question. But the thing with all this, Joe, is like when we talk about should Ed have accepted this gift, whether or not, like, you and I both think Ed is not a guy that's easily influenced. I don't think he owes anybody anything. I don't think he can be bought. The man cannot be bought.
I don't think he can be bought.
I don't think he can. But I'm sorry, Ed, but the timing of this,
it looks bad.
The optics of this, the perception is there. And if that perception is there, you have to deal with that. And people are asking legitimate questions about that.
Right. Because here's the thing. Ed's position of influence in ministries and organizations is problematic, because if you work for CT and you're an editor, even though they would argue, well, he's not a real editor, he's just a title.
No, but his title is editor, and he works for a publication, an online publication that reports news.
Right.
Sorry.
Yep.
I agree. I'm just saying if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck.
Or James MacDonald.
No, this one, or Ed Stetzer.
Yeah, okay. But so this is the thing. Because of your position in those things, it looks really bad in light of how things unfolded, right? So here's what it looks like to a lot of people out there. All right, it looks like James gave gift to Ed to influence, manipulate, or control, or leverage, and then in response, Ed gives a gift to James, which is the connection to Christianity Today. Now, this was confirmed by Mark Galley at Christianity Today that it was Ed that introduced James to somebody at CT, and the consequence of that was that CT published James' article on suing Christians on November 2nd, 2018.
Yeah.
So this was months later, but same year, about 7 months later.
Yeah. But even after that, CT, reproduces like Harvest's article, like
their press release and all
press release, defending themselves against the World Magazine article.
Right. And so you can see how that looks to people, right? Even if Ed, wasn't like trying to pay his friend back for the gift that he gave him, at the very least, it looks really bad.
Yeah.
And so, listen, one of the things that I think that you and I try to do, Jimmy, is we try to be as honest as we can and as transparent as we can. We try not to hide, whether it's our perspective or the things that we do. We try to be transparent, and sometimes that gets us in trouble. Sometimes it's hopefully it's also helpful to people. And so you got to understand, like, I'm not dogging Ed. I actually like Ed. But stop it. You like Ed too. But the reality is like I've told Ed, like, dude, I think you should say something. I think you should come out public and just have an interview, do the whole thing. Like, talk about it, just put everything out there so that you can actually like be transparent, move on.
That's just it. You've got nothing to hide, right? Like that's just it. You've got nothing to hide.
Yeah. So just like, let's just go ahead and talk about it. And if you did do something wrong, like, okay, so maybe Ed will come to the place, and maybe he's already there. In fact, I would assume he's there, but I don't know. I haven't asked him a specific question. But hopefully Ed's at the place where he'd say like, yeah, that was dumb. I should not have accepted that gift.
Okay.
Then here's what you do. You say that thing out loud and say like, that was a dumb thing that I did. Because we all do dumb things.
Yeah. Joe does it all the time.
I do it all the time.
Yeah. Kind of like this weekend when he posted a screenshot of...
That was not a dumb thing. That was helpful. All right. So what do you think Ed should do? I mean, in all of this, I mean, listen, and again, these are just our perspective. This is our perspective on all this. We don't have all of the information. We don't know all of the legalities. We don't know.
Yeah.
This is just our perspective. What do you think Ed should do?
Yeah. I mean, I think you've said it. I think he needs to speak out. He needs to come, he's already clean. I shouldn't say that, but he needs to open. He needs to let people know. But I think if I think I'm trying to word it in a way, I think Ed could be a catalyst for some lasting change, right? Even in the midst of this, what's going on there, right? Because, I think Ed could help. And I think, Ed though has lost a voice. He's lost his voice, in this by not speaking.
Yeah. And, as a guy that I know cares about abuse in the church, like he's got a book coming out on that. I know he does care about people and he cares about these things. This is a pretty big deal. And not only is it a big deal, but it's local.
Yeah.
It's very, very local.
This is right in your backyard.
So, I agree. I think Ed should have a big sit down with somebody and lay it all out there. Good, bad, and ugly. Here's what happened.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for what I did. That was wrong. I'm sorry for how things were perceived, if they're just perceived wrong. And let's learn from this and then go in a good way.
Yeah. And I think, but along the same lines, I think for other people, I think sometimes when I read these, when I read people's reactions and their comments, I think sometimes they're trying to draw blood from a stone.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing, right? Like, now, granted, with Ed, he hasn't spoken up. So, okay, you're going to keep getting it, right? And rightfully so.
Hey, Ed, stop blocking people on Twitter.
That's it. Like, you're going to
I know you block a lot of people on Twitter.
But, I see other people like Mo, Pastor Mo, that admitted it, they confessed it, apologized, tried to pay back. Like, to me, it's like, okay, how much blood do you want from the man, right?
Yeah.
How much blood do you want from this guy to make restitution?
My fear is that, and maybe a guy in Ed's position, their fear would be like, it doesn't matter how much I say, they're just never going to stop, and maybe it feels that way. But I just know me, I would want to say something. I would want to say, especially if I did something wrong, because it's embarrassing. I just want to like, let's confess it. Let's get it out there. And even if my highest motive wasn't to honor God and to help the church and to vindicate myself because I'm innocent, even if those weren't the highest motives, the lower motive of pride would, I think, move me. Like, I don't want to look stupid. So, we'll just, it's like, I just would want to come clean with that. So, these are our thoughts on all of this, and I'm sure some people will not like some of the things that we said. That's okay. We have a lot of listeners and we have. Listen, we're Reformed Baptists. We have we get 100,000 downloads a month.
Yeah.
And a lot of those are not Reformed guys and girls. They're just people. And so we can disagree.
And if you don't like what we have to say, and you got an issue with it, feel free to direct message me on Twitter at Joe Thorne.
No, that's not. That's
Jenny talking. Head on over to at Joe Thorne.
No, there's no at Joe Thorne.
Add there.
That's why you've got numbers and underscores in your name, so people can't direct message you. Listen, here's what we're going to do. Coming up, we're going to do an episode on pastors' salary, lifestyle, and preachers and sneakers.
We've also got, though, hold on, we got an episode coming up. We're going to be sitting down with Julie Royce.
Well, we're talking to her about it.
I know,
can't be spilling the beans. She said that it sounds good, but like, come on.
No, it sounds like she's in.
Yeah,
we just haven't. We had to arrange a time.
I know.
What are we going to talk about there, Joe?
I don't remember.
Oh,
we wrote it down, but I don't remember. We're going to talk about
ethics.
Yep.
Good job. There you go.
And.
I'm only going to leave that one. No, I'm only going to leave that one. I don't want to give everything.
We're talking about ethics and stuff. Looking forward to that. And so stay tuned for that. Listen, if you want to join the conversation, you can do that on Instagram or Twitter at Doc and Devo. We are happy to hear your thoughts. We like to hear your thoughts. If you're totally rude, we're just not going to engage, or we'll make fun of you, because that's what we do, because this is our podcast. But if you have real questions or real pushback, that's totally fine. Feel free. Keep it civil. And you can follow us at Facebook, right? Facebook.com/Doctrine and Devotion. You go to our website, doctrineanddevotion.com. And we've got fresh pod coming out every Monday and Thursday. We've got videos that tend to drop on Fridays. And we got blog posts that are coming out every Wednesday. So check it out. Tell a friend.
Later.